Hi, welcome to Yoga at the Library. We're going to do a class today that does a little bit of everything, but we're going to focus on our hips. So we'll be stretching our hips in all different directions today. We're going to begin off of our mats. So go ahead and take whatever you're watching this class on and go to a wall. It can be a door that's closed. It can be any little space on a wall that you've got. It can be a door frame, nothing fancy. We're just gonna sit against a wall to start class. So it doesn't need to be on your mat. If you're lucky, it might be on your mat, but it doesn't need to be on your mat. My ankles are on my mat, but that's it. So we're setting up. Getting both sit bones rooted down into the floor, lengthening up through the spine. Welcoming yourself to your seat today. Just your starting seat. Maybe in a weird spot in your area, in your room or your house. Noticing kind of this vantage point that came out of nowhere, that you didn't have any notice that you were going to be in. See how everything looks from here. If you're anything like me, you sit in a new spot in any room in your house and you notice things that you want to change. Go ahead and resist the urge, or clean, or like a dust bunny that you need to take care of. Resist the urge to do that. We're at class. We're having a yoga moment. So we're sitting up nice and tall against the wall. The back of the head is to the wall. As much of the shoulder blades as you can against the wall. So the shoulders are nice and wide, the heart is wide, and the back is pressing into the wall. And I'm more concerned with your shoulder blades than I am with your spine here. You want to sit up nice and tall and open. Take in some breaths here, feeling the lungs expanding, the belly expanding. And then everything emptying out with the exhalation. And if you notice that your ankles are crossed, go ahead and take your legs long. So we'll feel a little adjustment here. How much of your back now is in contact with the wall? Maybe a little bit more of your spine. Pressing those shoulder blades back and against the wall, pressing the back of the head to the wall. Hands are resting wherever it's comfortable and the legs are relaxed. Just noticing how this feels, taking a couple deep breaths. Alrighty, let's go ahead and take the legs a little wider, maybe just a tiny bit wider, noticing now how much of your spine makes contact with the wall, maybe even a little bit more of it. If you have tight hamstrings like me, maybe this is the most of your spine that has been in contact with the wall yet. And from here, we might be able to venture away from the wall a little bit. Maybe walking the fingertips forward, maybe just bringing the head, the upper back a few inches from the wall. Walking the hands over towards the right leg. Feeling a stretch through that left side of the back. Walking the hands over towards the left leg. Feeling a stretch through the right side of the back? Maybe. And we'll come back to center, walking the fingers forward a couple inches, letting your spine round forward if that feels good, letting your head hang, just kind of taking a little break here. And coming back up to center, returning the back of the head against the wall. And we'll bring the ankles back in. If you can remember, cross your legs in the opposite way than you did originally. I don't know if this is opposite, but if you can remember, challenge your brain to cross the ankles in the opposite way. And see how you feel now. See how much of your spine makes contact with the floor. We've loosened up. Even though we haven't moved a ton, we have opened up through the back body. So maybe noticing that more of your spine is able to make contact with the wall, even though your ankles are crossed. Change can happen fast. Sometimes it takes a long time though. Alrighty, we're gonna make our way away from the wall and back to our mats. So whatever that looks like for you, if that means you're crawling to your mat, or if that means you're carefully getting up and walking to your mat, make your way to your mat, and we're gonna make our way onto our backs. So we've already extended the spine long against the wall. Now with the help of gravity, we're extending the spine long against the floor. Keeping the bottoms of the feet to the floor for now, so the knees are bent. Let's take the arms out wide in a T. Noticing how that changes the orientation of the shoulder blades against the floor, kind of lets your chest open up. Opens up some space through the upper back. We'll bend the elbows, keeping the backs of the hands to the floor if we can. Coming into cactus arms. We'll inhale, sliding those hands up overhead. And exhale, bending the elbows, bringing the elbows in towards the rib cage, getting a stretch through the triceps here. Inhaling up. And exhaling, hands slide on down. Inhaling up. And exhaling, sliding on down. We'll do one more. And then we'll bring the arms back down alongside the body, taking both legs out long and stretching up overhead. Stretching from the fingertips all the way down to the toes. Nice and long. Okay, we'll bend the right knee and hold on to that right knee or behind the right thigh. Moving that knee around in circles. This is the first time that we're really getting into the hips today in our hip focused class. Moving that knee around, maybe making big circles, maybe making little circles. Go ahead and switch directions. Checking out the range of motion in your right hip today. And when you feel like you've moved in the opposite direction, the right number of times, I guess, when you feel even, go ahead and extend that right foot up towards the ceiling, gently keeping a bent leg. Roll the ankle out a couple times. And we'll release the leg and lower it all the way down. Taking the left knee in towards the body, holding on to the front of the knee or underneath the thigh, and rolling that knee in big circles. Noticing if this hip feels different than the right hip. Just being curious. And we'll switch directions. Exploring the range of motion that you've got in your left hip today. Before we proceed through class and hopefully expand that range of motion a little bit. Already, when you feel like you have clockwise and counterclockwise evenly, that's what I meant to say before, we'll extend the foot up towards the ceiling, gentle bend in the knee, and rolling out that ankle a couple times. Alrighty, we'll release the left leg all the way down. Bending the knees, placing the feet to the floor nice and close to the sit bones, about hip width apart or maybe even a little bit wider. And we'll bring the palms down to either side, pressing into the feet. And on our inhale, we'll lift the hips up towards the ceiling. So this movement obviously activates the back body. Exhale and lower on down. And opens up, inhaling on up, opens up the hip flexors, the tops of the thighs, the fronts of the hips. And those hip flexors give a lot of people a lot of trouble. They can cause back tightness, they can cause booty tightness and pain, they can cause numbness, they can cause knee injuries. Those hip flexors are really, it's like a family of long, skinny muscles. And this movement, opening up the front of the body, any kind of back bend, helps the hip flexors to stretch. Inhaling to lift the hips. Exhaling to lower. One more time. Alrighty, we are just going to take an exploratory stretch here. Our hips aren't really warmed up, but we're going to just check in. So we're going to take the right ankle over the left knee here. We can stay just like this, or we can take the right hand to the right knee and press the knee away. So we're just getting a gentle sensation in the outer right leg, the outer right hip. Seeing where we are at in that area of our bodies. Release that foot on down. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, crossing the left ankle over the right knee. Maybe just hanging out here, maybe taking the left hand to the knee and pressing away. We'll release. Bringing both feet back down to the floor, taking the arms out into a nice wide T again, and just letting the knees fall down to one side. Inhaling up to center, and exhaling down to the other side. Moving with your breath. Warming up through the lower spine. The pressure of your body against the floor, kind of massaging those big glute muscles. When you feel even, coming back up to center, and we'll make our way into a seated position. You can rock and roll, or just roll over and come on up, taking your time. Find your seated position on your mat, ankles crossed, sitting up nice and tall. Maybe this feels a little bit better than when we do it at the very beginning of class, since the hips have been stretched a little bit. And we're sitting up nice and tall, rooting evenly through both sit bones. Crown of the head reaches up towards the ceiling. We'll take both arms out and up on an inhale. And exhale to come down to one side, reaching up and over. Inhaling up to center, and exhaling down to the other side. Moving with the breath, stretching through the sides, the obliques, the top of the hip bones. When you feel even, meeting back at center, and we'll twist. Twisting, taking one hand across to the opposite knee, one hand behind. Inhaling to switch sides, coming up to center, and exhaling to twist. Moving with your breath. On each breath, or every other breath, whatever feels best to you today. When you're in the twist, looking over the shoulder, bringing the twist all the way through the entire spine. And when you feel even, we'll meet back at center, bringing the hands down through the heart. And here's where we've been in this cross-legged position, so when we switch, it won't be so hard to figure out which side was correct. We're switching ankles. No interruption in between. So we're sitting up nice and tall here. We've got our ankles crossed in the opposite way. I'm going to bring the palms together at the heart. Taking a big deep breath in. Exhaling, palms press forward, rounding through the back. Inhaling, palms come up, shoulders dropping away from the ears. Exhaling, hands reaching back, interlacing the fingers if you can. Inhaling to open the heart, lifting the hands and lifting the chin. Exhaling, hands come into the center. Big deep breath in. Exhaling, palms press forward. Inhaling, palms up. Exhaling, hands reach back. Inhaling, opening up the heart. And exhaling, hands come back into the center. We'll do that one more time. Deep breath in. Exhaling, palms pressing forward. Inhaling, palms up. Exhaling, reaching back. Inhaling to open up the heart. And exhaling, coming back in. Alrighty, let's go ahead and uncross those legs, making our way into hands and knees, tabletop position. Palms right underneath the shoulders, knees right underneath the hips, nice and stable on the floor. Coming into a neutral spine, so we want the belly hugging in, the spine is long and straight. Gaze is down at the floor in between the fingertips. Waking up that spine. So we'll inhale, lifting the tailbone, dropping the belly, lifting the chin. And exhale, rounding up through the middle back. Coming into cat. Moving with your breath. Waking up your spine, taking any movements forward or back or side to side that feel natural for you. Maybe bending into the elbows a little bit. Maybe arching into the shoulders a little bit more. Make our way back to neutral. Go ahead and turn your hands around so your fingertips point towards the body. And we're just going to take the heart in a little circle over the wrists. So it might be like a really little circle. It might be kind of more of like a diamond shape. Try to make your movement continuous and smooth and gentle. We'll switch directions. Noticing how tight those wrists are, those forearms. Waking up the hands, stretching out the wrists. And we'll come back to center, bringing the hands back how we started, palms down. And let's go ahead and shake out those wrists. Shake them out, roll them out. We're going back down onto them. Here we go. So we're going to bring the hands down to the floor. A little bit forward of the shoulders, a couple inches forward. We'll tuck the toes. We're going to lift the knees and the hips to come on up into downward facing dog. And this is our first one, so we're being gentle through the knees. We're alternating, pressing one heel and then the other down towards the floor. Noticing how the backs of the legs feel, how the hamstrings, the backs of the knees feel. the backs of the ankles. Just notice what's going on in your back body today. Okay, we're gonna take the right foot all the way up to the top of the mat, outside of the right hand. So like the edge, the right edge of your mat. If it takes a lot of steps, that's just fine. If you need to use your right hand to kind of guide it up there, that's fine too. We're just making our way up with that right foot. The left knee can come all the way down to the floor. Our hands are inside of the right foot. We can turn the right toes out to the right, letting the right knee fall out to the right. Getting a huge stretch through the inner right hip, the front of the left hip, those hip flexors. We can even go a little bit deeper by bending the elbows. Some people can take their elbows all the way down to the floor, or to blocks is really nice. Just finding your pose here. And you do not need to be so still. We are not statues. So if you're in this yoga pose and it feels nicer to kind of move the hips around to kind of settle into it, that's just fine. You can bend the elbows and then straighten them a couple times. Just finding the sensations that feel beneficial in this pose for you. We can also adjust that back knee. We can lift it up and lower it down a couple times with the breath even. Just an option to inhale and lift the knee, exhale and lower it down. If that feels good, keep going with the breath, or just hang out in your dragon lunge. Alrighty, we'll all go ahead and lift that back knee, and we're gonna step the right foot all the way back, coming back into downward facing dog, noticing how different that right leg feels from the left leg after that. Kind of neutralizing, lifting the hips up really high towards the ceiling. And we're gonna make our way all the way forward with the left foot this time. Taking as many steps, as many movements as you need to bring that foot to the outside of the left hand. Letting the toes turn out to the side, off the mat even. The knee turns out to the side. That back knee can stay lifted or come down. The elbows can stay straight or they can bend. Or you can alternate, bending and straightening, lifting and lowering the knee. Find your pose, find your stretches on this side, because there are definitely more than one stretch going on. There is definitely more than one stretch going on in this pose. Okay, straighten those elbows, lift that back knee, and we'll make our way back into our downward facing dog. Lifting the hips nice and high, and carefully, slowly, we'll lower the knees all the way down. Taking those knees wide, the big toes together, and we're going to come on down into child's pose, which is a nice passive hip stretch. Forehead is down towards the floor. Arms are relaxed. The arms might need a break after all that. So letting the elbows bend, letting the hands just be soft. Breathing regularly here, feeling the stretch through the fronts of the legs, the fronts of the knees, the ankles, the tops of the feet. Long spine. We'll make our way on up. We're going to come into a seated pose now called deer pose. So deer pose is like a side saddle position. So let's go ahead and come so that the bottom of your right foot is kind of visible to you. And the heel of your left foot is kind of visible too. So, I don't know, the right foot's in front. And in deer pose, depending on, there's a lot of ways to adjust yourself and kind of find this pose. So depending on where your feet are, you might be able to get both sit bones down, you might not, and that's okay. What we want to do here is just kind of find the stretch wherever it may be. So we're adjusting the feet, we're adjusting the spine, we're adjusting where our heart is pointing, we're adjusting the hands to find a good stretch. I'm kind of finding a nice stretch when I fold over this right knee is kind of where I like it. I'm feeling a stretch through this quad here. Something's going on in this left hip, so that's a nice one. It's also a nice one to reach up and over. Stretching through the side body again, getting the top of the pelvis on this right side. So just kind of finding your stretch here. Whatever feels good to you. Holding on to that left knee and folding over that leg. Switching between a few different stretches. Just finding a good sensation, good feelings through the legs, through the middle area of your body here. Seeing how it feels as you settle closer and closer in the floor. Noticing if the sensations get a little bit easier, a little bit gentler. And let's go ahead and come to a neutral position. So we'll take the legs back in front, bottoms of the feet to the floor, swinging both knees side to side a couple times. And then we're going to come into deer pose on the other side. Deer pose and variations, I guess is what I should call that. So we're taking the opposite way, so you can see the bottom of the left foot, you can see the heel of the right foot, sitting up nice and tall. Maybe both sit bones can make it down to the floor. Not for me today. Depending on where you set up your feet, you may need to have a hand to the floor, and that's just fine. And figuring out where you find the stretch. If it's just upright, that's great. It's folding over that left knee. Folding over the right knee, reaching up and stretching through the whole side body, or a combination of the three. You might be doing something completely new, and that is fine too, as long as you are feeling a stretch somewhere. Okay, we'll make our way back to neutral with the feet to the floor. Again, swinging the knees from side to side, releasing through that low back. And we'll make our way again into a tabletop position. We're only going to be on our feet for a little bit during this class, noticing how your spine feels here. That deer pose was a lot on the spine, wiggling from side to side, maybe taking a couple big barrel circles with your chest and your belly. We'll send the hands a couple inches towards the top of the mat, tuck the toes, and lift on up into a downward facing dog. Again, pedaling it out, being gentle with the backs of the legs. The knees were just bent for quite a while. We'll take a nice bend in both knees and walk the hands towards the feet this time. Coming into a forward fold, gentle bend in the knees. Hanging out here. Letting your head be heavy, letting your arms be heavy. On an inhale, we'll slowly roll all the way up to stand. Standing up nice and tall. Alrighty. So we want to have the feet underneath the hips or even a little bit wider than the hips. And we want to have those feet pointing parallel. Kneecaps are pointing straight over the toes. Hips are stacked over those knees. The tailbone is tucked a little bit so we're not sticking our booties out. Standing nice and tall and strong. Palms can shine forward, helping those shoulders to drop away from the ears. Chin is level with the floor. We'll inhale, taking the arms out and all the way up. Exhale, fold forward and bow. And on your forward fold, let the knees bend a little bit. Inhale, opening into a long, flat spine. And exhaling to fold on down. Inhaling, coming out and up. Exhaling, hands into the heart. We'll do 2 more of those. Inhaling, arms come out and up. Exhaling and folding. Inhaling, long, flat spine. Exhaling on down. Inhaling out and up. And exhaling, hands into the heart. Arms come out wide and up. Exhaling to fold. Inhaling, long, flat spine. Exhaling all the way down. Inhaling to come out and up. And exhaling, hands come into the center. Standing still for a moment. Pressing the palms into one another. Pressing the bottoms of the feet into the floor. Feeling stable and supported. Alrighty, this next one is a new one. So let's see, we're going to take the left ankle in front of and to the other side of the right ankle. So to the outside of the right ankle. We are standing with our legs crossed. And then we're going to take the arms up. We're going to hold on to the left wrist with the right hand. So we're crescenting the body over to the right. And in order not to lose your balance, this left hip kind of goes over to the left, and that's okay. I really don't want anybody to fall down today. So we're feeling a big, long stretch through the left side. Taking one big, deep breath in. and letting it out. We'll release the hands, bringing the torso back over the hips. And here is where we're going to fold forward. Legs are still crossed. We're folding forward. So this is a little bit different of a forward fold, and you may wish to adjust your feet a little bit once you get folded forward. If you feel something weird, something pulling, or something that's not working out for you, you can adjust your feet and see if you can make that weirdness go away, I guess. We're folding forward. You get a nice view of your feet in a very strange position relative to each other. That's new. Letting the head hang heavy, relaxing as much as you can here. That right leg is working to keep us balanced and getting a nice big stretch in the meantime. We'll carefully roll all the way back up. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're bringing the feet back to neutral, maybe rolling out the feet a little bit, shaking out those toes, shaking out those lower legs. Keeping the left foot where it is, we're going to take the right foot in front of and to the left of, right? Yeah, in front of and to the left of your left foot. Maybe this is why I haven't taught this sequence before, because it's lots of rights and lefts. We're reaching up, taking a hold of the right wrist, and crescenting over to the left. Stretching from the fingertips down to the foot. Feeling your body working to stay balanced, to stay upright. Building strength every time we challenge that balance. We'll come back up, bringing the torso back up over those hips. Feet are feeling stable as they can be when they're opposite. And we'll fold forward. This is what my son does every time I tell him he's got his shoes on the wrong feet. He crosses his legs and reverses his feet and says, "Is this right?" It's like an optical illusion. So feeling a big stretch through the back of the left leg. Maybe the outer left leg. Challenging that balance. Letting the upper body hang, be long. And we'll carefully make our way back up. Bringing the feet back to regular old standing, rolling out those ankles, shaking out those lower legs. And we'll come to the bottom of our mats. Taking the arms out and up. Folding forward, knees gently bent. And we'll take the hands to the floor, walk those hands all the way forward. We come all the way down onto our bellies here. All the way down onto your belly. Let's go ahead and take the elbows out to the sides. The palms are to the floor, kind of in front of the shoulders a little bit, giving yourself a lot of room here. We're keeping the tops of the feet to the floor. And just for fun, let's take the palms up off the floor. So we're making little Spider-Man hands with our hands. And we'll inhale carefully, slowly, with lots of control, lifting the heart up off the floor. Exhale to lower on down. Inhaling, lifting that heart. Exhaling to lower all the way down. Inhaling, peeling the heart up off the floor one more time. And exhaling all the way down. Palms come down to the floor. We're going to push up and back and find our child's pose again. Big toes together, knees wide apart. We'll hang the forehead down towards the floor. And stretching and releasing that low back. Hopefully getting rid of some fatigue, some tightness. Alrighty, we're gonna make our way onto our backs, however that looks for you. Finding your way on down. We'll do a couple more poses. Finding your way onto your back, knees are bent. Bottoms of the feet to the floor. Taking the arms out into a T. And let's go ahead and lift the low back off the floor and shift it a couple inches over to the left. Just a couple inches, like 2 or 3 inches over to the left. Then we're dropping the knees down to the right. Challenge yourself to stack those knees one on top of the other, or at least feel like you're stacking those knees one on top of the other. And look over those left fingers. Hanging out in a twist here. Maybe not stacking those knees one on top of the other. If you're struggling to do that, I stopped trying. Yeah, let's not stack the knees one on top of the other. So we shifted the hips over so that the knees could be closer to stacked. And that's good enough. Don't fight your body. I'm a little rusty. Thank you for bearing with me. We'll bring the knees back up to the center, bringing the tailbone back in line with the rest of the spine. Pressing into the floor to take the low back a couple inches over to the right now, and dropping those knees over towards the left. Not worrying about stacking the knees because our hips are stacked, so that's pretty good. And looking over the right hand. Coming back to center with the knees, bringing the tailbone back in line with the rest of the spine. And here is the pose you've been waiting for since I gave you a teaser at the very beginning of class. We're going to cross the left ankle over the right knee, holding on behind the right thigh or to the front of the right shin, or leaving the foot to the floor, finding your pose on this side. Feeling a big stretch to the outside of the whole upper left leg. Breathing here, especially into that hip. And we'll release the right foot back down to the floor, uncrossing the left, and then come into that pose on the other side, crossing the right ankle over the left knee. Maybe staying right here, maybe holding behind the left thigh, maybe front of the left shin. Finding a big stretch to the outer right hip, the whole upper leg on the right side. Using the breath, especially the exhalations, to settle in. And we'll release the left foot back down to the floor, uncrossing the right. Go ahead and swing those knees side to side a couple times. And now we'll take the bottoms of the feet together, letting the knees open out wide. Just hanging out, opening up the upper inner legs. We just opened up the upper outer legs. The hip joints move in so many directions and involve such large muscles that they are hard to stretch. In this class, we've stretched them in several different directions, this being the last one. Hopefully bringing more mobility, more openness, less pain to this lower area of your body. Less tension, not necessarily pain. If you have pain, I hope you have less of it, but tension too. Alrighty, we're gonna find our Shavasana. If you wanna stay like this with the knees wide, that is just fine. If you wanna adjust the feet and stay in that position, that's fine. We could take the legs long and straight. We can take the knees bent and bring the knees together, finding your pose here where you feel supported, you feel symmetrical from right to left. You feel like you can relax for a minute or two. We're breathing regularly here, letting your entire body feel soft and heavy into the floor. Using those exhalations to release through the legs, through the arms, through the lower spine, the glutes, the hips, through the upper spine, the shoulders, and through the face, the head. Just breathing here for a moment, not dwelling for too long on any thought that might arise. And if you notice a thought comes to dwell, try to breathe, exhale, let it float away. Begin to deepen your breath. Taking little movements with your fingers and toes. Rolling out the wrists and the ankles. Taking a scan of your body. Noticing how it feels different than it did an hour ago. We'll bend the knees, rolling over to one side. And gently pressing on up into a seated position. Sitting up nice and tall. Bringing the palms together at the heart. And taking 3 deep breaths to close our class. Taking a big deep breath in for the world. Exhaling, hands coming into the heart. Big deep breath in for our community. Exhaling, hands come into the heart. Big deep breath in for ourselves. Hands come down into the heart. Thank you so much. Namaste.